Welcome back to Beagle Eye Visions Internet. I hope you guys are doing good. Hope everyone's doing good. Ladies, gents, everyone, doing well. Hope you're doing better now that you tuned into Beagle Eye. Getting some awesome knowledge for free without having to pay any money, without having to watch any commercials. Amazing, right? Right. Alright. Gonna keep grinding. So this is episode let's see. Come on Spotify. This is episode number 42. Subversive use of sacred symbolism parts. It's scrolling. Subversive use of sacred symbolism part 4 of the CubbyWhole podcast. We're gonna keep grinding. We're gonna head into the Gunners Plaza because the Gunners suck and they're lame and they're bullies. Actually, most of the factions in this game are bullies. Of all the Fallout games, actually, they're all bullies. Brotherhood of Steel, they're bullies. They're bullies. They're all bullies. Don't like them. They're all immoral. If you really, study their habits and see what they do not study morals, that's for sure. Like the CubbyWhole podcast does. So, yeah. So, we're gonna get some knowledge. Oh, I guess I talked too long now. The camera's circling. We're gonna get some knowledge, and, yeah, we're gonna hit the Gunners. They won't know what to expect. So, here we go. Thanks for choosing Beagle Eye.
That's one of the things about religion that we have to remember when we're talking about that makes it such a hot topic issue is because we're talking about law. Who gets to be God? Who gets to be God's deputies? Who is the Most High? Who is the divine authority? It's all about the claim to the Most High. The only way that somebody can be higher than us is if we give away our power. Because there's nobody, we're all equal. But we're not equal in our knowledge, so ultimately I think it does have to be a hierarchy, but it has to be a cooperative hierarchy like a bee colony. It's about what our value system is, what we care about.
Hello, Hive Mind. This is the third and final part of a pre-recorded show done on February 22nd, 2021. I am your host, Nate Cap, joined by co-host Brandon Martin. Welcome to the 42nd CubbyWhole podcast, where important topics are unveiled, discussed, and tested. Our website is CubbyWhole.com. That's CubbyWhole.com. As of now, this show comes out every Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, and please make sure to start at podcast number 1 if this is your first time hearing the show. On the last show, Brandon and I broke down much of the stellar symbolism, including bear, gavel, all-seeing eye, and axe symbolism, and the subversive uses of those symbols. The symbolism of the stellar mythos is very important in regards to understanding origins, unity, the Most High, and the divine source, especially. It's a really important study. We also introduced Freemasonry and its basic fundamental breakdown, what it is and what it is not. The science of Freemasonry helps the seeker understand the depths of morality and live a more balanced life. That's the point. It is truly the study of comparative religion in the sense of, if you remember the second CubbyWhole show where I talk about how to find truth, with the idea of the round table and the cup, and that table having many people sitting around it, and then imagine that truth equals the cup, which is set up in the middle of the table. And let's just say 12 people, including you, are sitting around that table, and each person has their own perspective of the cup in the middle of the table. Each person has gnosis of what they see, and all of you can agree that you see the cup or truth, but can all agree that none of you knows or understands all sides of the cup. So what has to be done to solve this problem? Well, each of you could get up and go see all sides of the cup by circling the table, right? But what if all of you were limited and could only stay positioned in one spot? Kind of like, being around the world and being in the country that you're in and everybody else being in a different country. And you're all looking at the same thing, but with a different perspective. Then everyone would have to speak with each other and communicate what is seen from their position, so that each person could know as much about the parts of the cup that can't be seen by each person. And so this is analogous to comparative religion, in the sense that in order to get closer to truth, we must study as many sides as we can to gain a fuller picture of why each religion is, especially major religion, why there's importance to them, or what's important within them in their teachings that can generate a better and more moral world of freedom. So it's just like, most religions hold the golden rule at their core. So there's value. And it's essentially about describing the same thing but with different dialects. And this makes it difficult, but helps us come closer to truth, or closer to source. That's why we must stay open but principled when looking into this kind of material. So, yeah, this is about Freemasonry. And we're going to go much further in this topic from here on out, this science. And we're going to demonstrate this science a lot in coming shows. So it's about how it's used for love and nature, Freemasonry, or how it's used for control and chaos by the dark occult, or the dark lodge. Okay. So before I put the third part of the show on, I wanted to share some things regarding bear symbolism that came to me after the last show, where Brandon gave a stellar breakdown of that symbolism, stellar symbolism. One of the things that he brought up was the sports team, the Chicago Cubs, and its logo. And I wanted to add to that. So if you think about the Cub as the constellation Little Bear as the 7, and the little bear or cub is inside the sea. This is, like I said on the early show when I spoke about the 8th principle of care, when I said C equals 3. It's the 3rd letter in the alphabet, and the letter G being the 7th letter of the alphabet. So C and 7 fused create the capital G, because it's about seeing the 7. So it's the 7 within the sea. It's the little bear within the sea. It's the 7 in the sea. So we see 7. We see little bear. C is also an arc. It's the symbol of an arc. And an arc holds something of high significance, right? So there's no denying that the word cycle starts with a C, and that each day equals one cycle or arc, that the little bear is swung around by his quote-unquote tail by the pole star Polaris. The arc holds the 7. The arc holds the significance of the Most High. So the Chicago Cubs is actually the symbol G, which is C7. And I found that very, very powerful. Yet, of course, it's subversively used as well. So, 108 years of getting beat down in baseball. And then in 2016, just 5 years ago, they beat the Cleveland Indians in Game 7. It took the Cubs 108 years to win a World Series. Think about that. And that number is significant, very significant. If you're not familiar with this number and what it means symbolically, it means somethingness, which is the number 1, nothingness, which is the number 0, and infinite, which is the number 8. And the little bear equals most high, or symbolically it means source. That's what 108 means, source. And I feel there's more I'm leaving out on this bear symbolism. I'm sure I'll share more about it throughout these shows. But the one thing that really blew my mind this past week is, if you remember me speaking about the little bear constellation, tail being the tall tail, as in, a story, tall tail story, because bears don't have long tails. And it's the tallest tail because the little bear is seemingly the most high. So it's the tallest, most important story of universal unfoldment regarding the journey to source, to know source, and the journey towards enlightenment. So Brandon told us that he believes that the bear might actually be the jackal dog, the jack and the L, which means sun and the great architect of the universe, God. He told us the story where he believes the African gray wolf was the first animal, the first dog to greet man into nature. And then went on to say that he believes that symbolically this was man befriending knowledge or the creator. That's very important to keep in mind. And then, fucking cow! When I heard that, it hit me so deeply that the bear is also meant to mean to hold, right? Like, to bear something is to hold something. And because a bear doesn't have a long tail, and an African gray wolf or jackal does have a long tail, it's because it's based on the false tail. And spiritually or symbolically, if a dog is man's best friend, and then that translates to man befriending knowledge, so knowledge becoming man's best friend, then we can understand where the word dogma really comes from. Because in order to know and understand the Creator, we must learn and understand dogma. We must befriend dogma. We must learn and understand the dogma of knowledge in order to become closer to source. Because we can't understand the one without the two. And Ma translates to the sacred feminine or care, because it takes care to know dogma in order to truly want truth or to know truth. So the bear tail is dogmatic. It's dogma because bears don't have tails. Not long ones anyway, like the constellation suggests. So really, it's about the bear holding or bearing dogma. So holding the dog and the care, or bearing the knowledge and the care to know the unfoldment towards truth. It's seemingly fixed. It's a seemingly fixed constellation, so therefore it's a fixed story. And This is what being spiritual is all about. It's about transcending dogma, to transcend towards truth and align with natural law or God. Spiritually, or spiritual, means spire ritual when broken down into two compounds. Spire ritual. So the spire is the constant unfoldment, like the Fibonacci sequence. And ritual is the action of aligning to this unfoldment. And if you haven't thought of it already, it's clear what dog spells backwards. So that's my take on the little bear and the tail. And it's important. It's a very important tale to be studied. So thanks for bearing with me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play the last part of our show now. And this is right after I explained what Freemasonry is and is not. And of course, there's way more to it, which we're going to cover as we move forward. So here it is. All right, we are back. And it has been a really jam-packed show so far. And if you are listening to this, I want to thank you for making it this far, because it really is a lot of work that we have put into to be able to produce work like this, to be able to talk about these types of topics in depth. And, so it's much appreciated. And, you're only doing yourself some good service to truth by making it this far. So I wanted to let Brandon go ahead and give us a little feedback on what I just talked about regarding Freemasons and Freemasonry.
Yeah, I think you did a very wonderful job explaining Freemasonry. I mean, Freemasonry is an ancient esoteric tradition which is all about knowing the higher self and natural law and becoming a builder of a better mind, soul, and ultimately the resurrection of morality within a human being. And this is, personified in one of their legends known as the Hiram Abiff legend, or the Master Builder, which we will explain in future episodes. So really, Freemasonry is about understanding the cosmic laws, like Nathan pointed out. I feel that it's very important to distinguish the difference between the lodge system and the actual tradition of Freemasonry. The lodge system has to do with Freemasons, and it has to do with a corrupted version of the ancient esoteric sciences that were preserved in the symbolism and in the allegory that Freemasons do hold in their temples and in their lodge systems. But we have to recognize that we are specifically talking about the original intent and original purpose for Freemasonry and what it actually is at the root of the tradition. So I find some green language within the word Freemason very interesting, okay? So we have free, which, obviously is about being free. And then Mason, and Mason can be broken down into Ma, and Ma is the Egyptian goddess, which is Ma'at, of natural law and justice. And then Sun, or Sons, the S-U-N, but also the S-O-N as well. So Freemasons are the sons of Ma, the sons of Ma'at, the sons of natural law and the one great architect of the universe. So I always felt that green language said a lot about the term Freemasons. So I find that pretty synchronistic, and I just wanted to add that in to this section. Now,
I love that.
Yeah, right? It's so powerful when you can really understand that. So, contrary to what most people believe, Freemasonry is the eldest of all the mystery traditions. It is the oldest of all of them. It predates all the others, and all the other mystery traditions build upon the modes, motifs, and symbols and expressions of Freemasonry. Freemasonry obviously was not called Freemasonry in the ancient time. We didn't have the words to express in complex languages at that time to call it Freemasonry or something like the craft. Okay, but what we did express it in is the rites and rituals, the symbols, the sign language, and the gestures of ancient times and ancient people, specifically the stellar people of Kemet. They preserved all of the rites and rituals of Freemasonry in their sign language and gesture. So it's very important to understand this when it comes to Freemasonry and the evolution of Freemasonry. So if you compare the rituals and rites of initiation and passage in the lodge system with the rites and rituals of totemic society and totemic people, you will see a direct ubiquitous nature between the two, because those rites and rituals are directly derived from the stellar cult people and the ancient totemic people of Kemet. This is all proven through an in-depth study of anthropology, totemic sociology, Egyptology, eschatology, and mythology. And this is something you might find interesting. You probably like this. Metaphysically, the origins of Freemasonry start when polarity is manifested into reality. One could say it begins when the collective self, the first aspect of the great architect of the universe or collective consciousness, becomes aware of itself or becomes conscious of itself, which gives a mirrored refraction or reflection, which creates poles. And this is what we're about to explain is the two pillars of Masonry. But this is, something that is very important to understand, that metaphysically, Freemasonry starts at that high level of creation. And, in my point of view, Freemasonry is directly proportional with the evolution of the all, with everything. But it's also directly proportional with our own evolution, with human evolution. So physically, Freemasonry comes into manifestation when we have advanced our evolution to become self-aware and apply that understanding into a system of modes and expressions that further our evolution into a higher type. So it's really important to understand that Freemasonry goes back to the origins of our ability to understand what we are, to reason. Once we have our ability to reason, and once we have our ability to become fully self-conscious of our internal realm and our external realm, and to do corresponding and comparative studies through our own mind. And this also, like I said, is refracted or reflected into the all, which is metaphysically the same thing. So once those two poles, those two pillars, or the principle of polarity and duality come into existence, this is when we could say we have the start of some of the growth and the evolution of Freemasonry.
Wow, man. Nice add-on. It's just amazing how much more there is. And obviously, Freemasonry is just a lifelong study, but it's just incredible. Once we understand our mind to a higher degree, then we start to see the reflection of the science of Freemasonry and vice versa, and it's just really incredible the amount of work we have done as a species to show this, to prove this, to advance ourselves through symbolism. And it's just a very mind-blowing experience for sure.
Yes, absolutely, Nate. It is extremely revealing as we start to open up this topic of Freemasonry. I mean, that's what the whole CubbyWhole show is about. Everything that we've been covering up till now is about Freemasonry. Everything that I've been covering, it's about the subversive uses of Freemasonry, the subversive uses of the knowledge, and it's about the proper uses of that, what Freemasonry is and what Freemasonry is not, like you said.
Yeah, it's so vital that we are able to orient ourselves and, stay honest to these words and really look into it ourselves and not just, take what other people say as the truth, right away about what we hear about these types of things. And, even what you're hearing right now on this show, you should not just believe what we're saying. It's we've done a lot of work to put this work forth, but it's up to you to go and figure this out and discover these sciences on your own, because that's really where you're going to allow it to unravel within yourself. And just something that's so vital and important for people to really pay attention to. We're gonna go over more of the subversive use of Freemasonry. And in show 38, Brandon covered the subversive use of solar, lunar, pyramidal, and Saturnian symbolism, and earlier the stellar, the bear, and the all-seeing eye, which are all symbols within the sacred science and art of Freemasonry. That's very important to note. And now we're going to cover the basics, at least, of the first degree trestle board, or, what's also known as the tracing board. And within the science of Freemasonry, the trestle board that we're going to speak on is known as the symbol of natural and moral law. This specific trestle board that we are presenting is known as Solomon's Temple, or the Entered Apprentice. And this is esoteric Freemasonry. This is a symbol of symbols. And by understanding this first degree trestle board allegorically, in its deep nature, we can raise in consciousness and generate true wisdom of self. It is important to understand that a lot of what I'm breaking down is in correspondence with the components of our left and right brain. So having prerequisite knowledge of that will really help, especially, having prerequisite knowledge of the triune brain, which is the neocortex, the midbrain, which is the limbic brain, and then the lower brain, which is the reptile brain, or the R complex. And that is something that I've kind of dropped the ball on, not covering that in detail, which I'm going to very soon, because it's just so important to understand the triune consciousness, the triune brain, and especially with this type of symbolism. And this trestle board is an allegorical, this is the allegory of the mind. And what I'm going to break down is the name Solomon, which is Sol O Mon. So you have the solar, the sun, which is light. If you're looking, and I meant to mention the slide that has the carpet. It's known as the carpet, and the carpet is that has the north, east, west, and south letters on each side, and it has the 3 pillars. So definitely make sure to look at that and follow along. And we have, like I said, we have Solomon, which is, when broken down, it's the soul. So the solar, or the sun, so that's the light. And then we have the O in the middle, which is the eye, and then Mon, which is lunar or moon. So we have to recognize that, there's the light, and then the dark, and then in the middle we have the all-seeing eye. And this is one of the few different interpretations of the first degree tracing board, and it's called the Entered Apprentice. This is given to the initiate at the beginning of his or her journey that you, the listener, is apparently on right now. And this is part of the journey toward enlightenment, which consists of studying the sacred science of Freemasonry. The allegorical name, Solomon's Temple, or the Temple of Solomon, is the reflection of the self. This is you. And not only is this self you, it is the whole universe. Symbolically, the microcosm self in correspondence with the macrocosm. The first degree tracing board is a lifetime study with a purpose to help us stay balanced and oriented in the deep mysteries of the inner esoteric world as well as the outside or exoteric. It's to help us raise consciousness and stay on the path, finding out how much we don't know, but definitely having the power to know, especially in the age of information, which we are currently in today. And there's plenty of information on Freemasonry that you can find, but obviously you want to definitely look in the right places too, but you really can't go too wrong looking into much of it, especially by actual Freemasons. So to the uninitiated or sleeping body self, this board would just look like an interesting piece of art or some kind of, made up story, somebody just randomly created. But I assure you, with great knowledge and understanding, we can have a pretty mind-blowing experience of truth that comes with it. So Brandon said he wanted to break down the checkerboard floor, and I wanted to go ahead and hand it off to him.
Oh, before we break down the checkerboard floor, we're going to take a break right there. Continue, look, put that thing away. We're going to continue to roam around the Gunners Plaza. I hate the Gunners. They're horrible bullies. Immoral trash, like Mark Passio would say. Mark Passio episode, that is next. But on the next episode at Beagle Eye Visions, we will finish off episode 42, Subversive Use of Sacred Symbolism, part, are we on 4? Yep, part 4. And then we will, we'll continue grinding, and then up next after that will be Mark Passio, the very legendary Mark Passio. If you do not know that name, shame on you. Shame. If you do not know that name, I was gonna quote Mr. T, but I totally brain farted. Anyways, stay tuned. Thanks again if you made it this far. Don't forget, if you want to support the channel, use code BeagleEyeVision at w.gg. Put some W in your cup. I got some right now. Stuff is delicious. Great energy to roam the wasteland with, as we hear that very classy music in the background. Alright. Stay tuned and stay golden, everybody.